The purpose of this lesson is to learn the different CSS style types, such as inline styles, embedded style sheets, external style sheets, how to format text using CSS, and how to format other elements on your page. For this lesson, I created a new HTML document called morecss.html, which is just simply a copy of our template. I changed the title, I changed the header H1, and I have added a link to it to our index.html file. So here's the link, and it just takes me to a blank document. For the purpose of this lesson, I want to create some dummy text in here just so you can see some paragraphs. Okay, so I'm going to create a couple more paragraphs. So I've added some extra text to these paragraphs just for the purpose of you being able to see what happens when I manipulate them. As we talked about in prior lessons, I want to be able to specifically identify certain elements on my page, and the way that I do that is to add the ID tag, the ID attribute inside of our paragraph tag. And so this paragraph, I'm going to call it para 1. This paragraph, I will call it para 2. And the last paragraph, I will call para 3. The only reason for doing this is because I want to specifically format the data within each of these paragraphs. If I don't care about formatting a specific paragraph, then I could just simply leave them as P's and we can format all of the P tags, but I want to show you how to do different ways. What we are going to talk about today is the 3 different types of styles that we can use. The first type is called an inline style, and it's the type that we've been using most of these lessons so far, where I put the style equals to something inside of the actual tag. Now, this type of style will only affect this one paragraph tag. It won't affect anything else on the page. I want to use these sparingly because if I have 4 different paragraphs that I want all formatted the same way, then I have to do the same style in all 4 of them. Well, if I'm going to format more than one the same way, then it would be better for me to use either an embedded style sheet or an external style sheet, which we'll get into in just a minute. So for this one, I want this text to be font family of Arial or sans serif if I don't have Arial installed. And now that particular paragraph is formatted. Like I said though, if I have all of these paragraphs and I want to format all of them as font family Arial sans serif, I would have to take this exact same statement here and put it into each paragraph. I don't necessarily want to do that. Okay, so I have a couple of options that I can use. The first one is if I only want to format my paragraph tags within this one document, I can use an embedded style sheet, which is up in my head. Okay, so I can do something like P, and all of my P tags get formatted as font family Arial, sans serif. And when I do this, it now applies that to all of the P tags, even this one that I've also specifically stated. Okay, so let's say I have this style up here that is formatting all of my paragraphs so that they're all Arial, but this particular paragraph I don't want to be Arial. I want this one to be Times New Roman. And if I don't have Times New Roman installed, we'll just do any serif font. Okay, so what I am doing here is I'm using an inline style to override the embedded style. So I want to save that and refresh. And now what you'll notice is that all of my paragraph tags are formatted as Arial except for this first one because the first one has an inline style sheet. There is an order of precedence as to how these get applied. The inline style is always going to be what is called the resultant style. It is the one that will actually get seen by the end user. So if I have something up here in the embedded style that defines the font family, it will get overridden down here at the actual element level. Okay, so let's say I change the color of the font from black to something a little lighter. Then we'll do something like a gray. Yeah, it's not enough to see, so let me make it a lot lighter. There you go. All right, so what I've done is I've formatted this so that all of our P tags are font family Arial and sans serif, and they're also gray. But if you notice, this style down here does not also specify a color, so it will not override the gray color. It will only override things that are actually specifically listed. So if I really do want to override the color, then I put color, and in here it's going to be black. And when I refresh, now that paragraph has that particular style. So the embedded style up here, whatever is here, if I specifically state the exact same CSS element, then this one will override whatever's up in the embedded style sheet. What I have been showing you so far is just simply the IDs. And what I would have to do to be able to format IDs is I would actually have to specifically state which ID it is up here in the top. So I have paragraph ID number 1 is in inline style, but this paragraph down here, I want to format this one a certain way. And what I want to do with this is I want to tell it that the color for that particular paragraph should be blue instead of gray. All right, so instead of just simply a P tag, I want to tell it to use this particular ID. And the way that I do that is by putting a pound sign and the name of the ID. And so then what I can do is inside of here, I can specify the attributes that should be done for this particular paragraph. Now it's blue. Okay, so the pound sign means I am referencing an ID called para2. All right, so let's say I had 20 different paragraphs and I wanted 5 of them to be colored blue. What I would have to do is each paragraph would have to have an ID, and every one of them has to have a unique ID. I can't use the same ID for 2 different paragraphs. So what I want to do is, instead of necessarily naming each paragraph and then coloring it, instead what I want to do is I want to put that this particular paragraph belongs to a class of objects that I'm going to call blue. All right, and so does this one down below. So I'm going to say class equals blue. Okay, so the ID has to be unique, but the class can be the same. I can have multiple items in the same class, but I cannot have multiple items with the same ID. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of para2 here just to show you what happens without it. Okay, so it goes back to the gray text. All right, so if I want to name something by ID, I put a pound sign and then the name of the ID for that particular element. If I want to do a class, I am actually going to do a dot and then whatever the class name is. So in this case, it's blue. Okay, so now for anything that belongs to the class of blue, do this. And now both of those get colored blue. So I can have an ID. The ID specifically names each paragraph, but then I can put them as part of a class of items, and then that class of items will be colored blue. All right, so I want to show you what happens here with this one. I'm going to set this one as class equals blue. Save it and refresh. Now, what actually just happened, and it happened too fast for us to actually see it, is that it came through and it starts with the embedded style sheet. This one gets run first. It says, okay, all the paragraphs, format them as font family Arial sans serif. So it turned all of our paragraphs into Arial sans serif. it says color them this gray color. So it colored all three of them that gray color. Then the next thing that it does is it looks at all of our class blue items and turns them all blue. So it says, okay, this is class blue, turn it blue. This is class blue, turn it blue. This is class blue, turn it blue. And then it keeps going down through the page, and CSS runs in order from the top of the page down to the bottom of the page. So the next thing that it does is actually at this particular element, it says, hey, the font family is actually supposed to be Times New Roman or serif. So then it goes back and it changes the font. So it really did change it to Arial, but then it changed it to Times New Roman. And then it also says, hey, the color should be black, so it changes it to black. So it really did turn it blue originally, then it turns it black, but it does it so fast that we actually can't see it happen. This is our effective style. If there's something that is here, it will override anything that is listed up here in the embedded style sheet. I want to take this a little bit further. So what I have done is I made duplicates of more CSS.html. So now I have a more CSS2.html and a more CSS3.html. And what I have done with those two documents is remove the styles and also remove the classes and the styles in the inline. So they are just simply basic documents. And what I want to show to you is how these will work with actually implementing styles in them. Right now what I have is the more CSS file is still formatted with the Times New Roman and serif font black, and then we have our two paragraphs with classes that are blue. Now the other two documents are just simply all black, all Times New Roman, because I have not specified any styles for those two. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to make it where the fonts in all of my documents are formatted the same way. Okay, so what I'm going to do this is I'm going to go into my style, and I want to specify that my H1s are Arial. So the font family is going to be Arial sans serif. Okay, I want to specify that my ULs and my LIs are the same way. Okay, and I also want to specify my footer is the same way, so I'm going to just start adding these to the list. Okay, so what I have so far in this document is everything should be formatted as Arial sans serif. Okay, so if I had any other elements in here, then I would do the same thing with them. I can do the same thing. I could specify my entire header. So let's go ahead and do that, which means I actually don't need this H1 here. Okay, so now everything is formatted as Arial sans serif. Everything will be the same. And oh, this document, I got to do the same thing. So I'm going to copy this, paste it into this document. Okay, I got this document over here. Got to do the exact same thing with it. I don't really want to do that. And what's going to happen is, let's say I decide that I want Arial now, but a year or two from now we decide that we want to change to a different type of font. Then what I'm going to have to do is go into every single document and change everything from Arial sans serif to whatever the new format is that we want it to be. That's going to be very time consuming, and I don't want to do that. The way around doing that is going to be to use what's called an external style sheet. An external style sheet is just simply a text document. So I'm going to create a new text document, and I'm going to call it style.css. Now notice right now it's style.css.txt. I want to make sure I get rid of that extension. Yes, I want to change the file name extension. And this document is just simply a blank document. All I am going to do with this document is include the elements that should be in my style here within this particular document. Okay, so I have so far my UL, LI, footer, header, and let's do our paragraphs. any H1s, they'll all be font family Arial, which means I don't necessarily need this line right here. I can get rid of this line because now I specified that it's font family Arial up here for all those different types of elements. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this from here and, sorry, I want to cut it and then paste it into here. Now, the problem is embedded some spaces, which what will happen is some of our browsers will throw a fit at tabs. So I want to get rid of any of the tabs that are in there. And that is it for this document, is just simply to put in the different styles just as if we had put them into our style section in the head of our document. Save this. Okay, now the problem is I have cut it from this document, which means if I come over here to more CSS and refresh, it goes back to the way it was before because there's nothing to specify that these are supposed to be Arial and sans serif. So I'm going to show you how to fix that. What I am going to do is in my head, but outside of the style, I want to include another line that just simply says link. And what is my link? My link is a style sheet that I want to link to. It is an external text document and it has a name. So I have to tell it its relation to this document is that it is the style sheet. What type of document is it? Well, it is a text document that contains CSS. And I also have to tell it how to find the document. So I have to give it its hypertext reference. So href equals and then style.css. So what I am doing is I am telling this HTML document, load the contents of this file and treat them as if they were styles directly in this document. There is another way to do this, which is an @import. You do not necessarily want to use @import, and the reason for it is if you use the old @import style import means, then what it will do is it'll only allow one style sheet to be loaded at a time. The link will allow all of my styles to be downloaded and applied at the exact same time. So link is more powerful. We want to use this one. Okay, so I'm going to refresh my page. And now it has gotten that style. Now if you notice, there's nothing in here that specifies that this stuff is supposed to be formatted as Arial. But because I told it to link to this style.css file, anything that is here will automatically get applied over here. Okay, so if I decide that I want to have the color of my font for these to be, let's say, green, if I change it in the style.css file, then it will change all of those. Okay, now the reason that it's not changing these is because these items here actually have a style in the embedded. Okay, so there's something else you need to be aware of, which is that there is an order of inheritance. And the order is that the external style sheet gets applied first. Then the embedded style sheet gets applied second. And then the inline styles get applied last. Which means if I have something in the inline style, it will override anything that's in the embedded style. If I have anything in the embedded style, it will override anything that's in the external style. And also my inline style will override things that are in my external style. All right, so I have this paragraph here that is class of blue, but I don't want it to be class of blue. I want this one to be green. Actually, let's make it a different color just so you can see it. We're going to make it orange. And I'm going to get rid of the style here for color. All right, so if I look at this, what's going to happen is it'll look at my external style sheet and I'll say, okay, that's a paragraph that should be colored green. All right, so it applies the green first. Then the next thing it does is it goes through my paragraphs and so, okay, paragraphs are supposed to be colored gray. And then down here, if I have anything that specifies a color, that would get actually applied last. I don't have any colors applied yet, so there's nothing that will actually override what our paragraph really should be. All right, so what is going to happen is my paragraph, when I refresh it, will actually be gray. I specified green in the external style sheet. I overrode that with the p tag in my embedded style sheet to be gray. And I can also come down here and override it again. All right, so I don't necessarily want my paragraphs to be gray, so I'm going to delete this. And then when I refresh my page, now you'll notice that this is it is green. And it's green because in the external style sheet it specifies it's green. In the embedded style sheet, there's nothing that says the paragraph should be a different color. And in the inline, there's nothing that says that it should be a different color. Okay, I want to take anything that's orange, and I'm going to specify anything that has a class of orange. And we are going to color that one orange. Okay, so now my external style sheet says anything with a class of orange is orange. My paragraphs are supposed to be green. This thing is a paragraph. It's supposed to be green. It is a member of the class of orange. So when I refresh over here, it will turn orange. And the reason for it turning orange is that this gets applied in order. So the first thing that happens is it turns it green because paragraph green is here. But because of order, then the next thing that happens is anything that's a member of the class orange gets changed to orange. Order matters, so make sure you pay attention to the order that you put your elements in your style sheets. So what I am doing is I'm using one external style sheet to format how this document should actually be formatted. Okay, so I want to take blue out of here. I'm going to put the blue into here. Once again, I need to get rid of these tabs because that will cause errors with browsers. Save this. I'm going to save this. So they're both saved. This has nothing to specify what should be done with my class of blue items. When I refresh over here, I get the exact same thing because it's importing it from style CSS, which does specify what happens with something that's blue. Okay, so I want these two paragraphs here to be orange. All I have to do is change the class here from blue to orange, and then when I refresh now, that paragraph also turns orange. Okay, I have my style here for Times New Roman. I want to get rid of this. So now when I refresh, everything is Arial because there's nothing at the actual item that specifies what the style should be. All right, so I have not touched these other two documents. They're both still all black Times New Roman text. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my link, copy it from here, and we will paste this into both of these documents. Okay, so this one line, watch what happens. When I refresh, now that entire document gets formatted. Okay, refresh this one, the entire document gets formatted. Now what this does for me is if I have 50 different web pages that are all using the same style sheet, and I decide that I no longer want these to be green, I want these to be back to 666666. Now it will affect all of these. Okay, now this one though, it has items that belong to a class, so that one didn't get anything applied to it. So I'm going to remove the class from the first paragraph, refresh the page, and there you go. So my external style sheet allows me to manipulate the styles on however many documents that are out there that are using that style by changing it in just one place. I don't have to specify it in more than one place now. Okay, so I want to format the text on my page a little bit. So far we've only played with changing the color. And the colors here, this orange kind of hurts to look at, so we're going to go ahead and get rid of that. So if I get rid of orange, what you'll notice is that paragraph, even though it belongs to the class of things called orange, because there is no longer anything to specify what happens to orange, the orange goes away and it just goes back to being the gray color. Okay, so I'm going to make this a little bit darker because I want this to be almost black. There we go. So it's a little bit darker, and that affects all of these now. Okay, so I have created it where whatever I do to my external style sheet will get applied to all of these documents. And I have this first paragraph of text, and in all of my documents, that first paragraph is something of emphasis. So what I want to do is I want to specify that this is a class of items called, let's call it strong text, just to make sure it's not a keyword. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing with all of my first paragraphs. Okay, so I have all of these now have a class of strong text, which that is fine, but I haven't actually specified anything to happen to those. So if I refresh the pages over here, you notice that nothing changes. All right, so what I want to do is I want to create a new definition for what should happen to strong text. So it's a class, so it's dot strong text, and then what gets applied. All right, so what I want to do is I want to increase the font weight. I want to make it bold. So I'm going to say font weight is bold. And when I refresh, now that first paragraph in all three documents will be bold because the strong text class is applied and the CSS element for the font weight for that class is bold. I also want to change the font size. I want to change how big it is. I have a couple of ways that I can do that. There are what are called pixels and then points. And pixels and points are both ways to specify the exact size that the font should be. So I'm going to do font size, and in this case I'm going to do 12 point. Now 12 point text is what is our typical text for a Word document. Okay, so if you notice what I'm doing over here is I'm refreshing, nothing looks different, but if I change this to 14, then the font size actually changes. Okay, so this font size in points is what you're used to seeing in Microsoft Word or any other word editor. Okay, so I want to play with pixels. Now, a pixel is a dot that's on the screen. So what's going to happen is depending on the resolution of the monitor, it will vary the size of the font. Now, the only problem with points and pixels is I'm setting an absolute size. This is what the size actually has to be set to, which means when people zoom in and out on the page, the font size won't necessarily change right with the zoom. So I'll show you what the point looks like. So we'll make it 25 points, and you'll notice that the font size is large. So it's 25 pixels, and it's 25 pixels from the top of the letter to the bottom of the letter. So the capital T is 25 pixels tall. But like I said, when people zoom in and out, you may have unexpected results. So I don't necessarily want to use this. What I want to use is what are called M's. And what an M is the percentage of the original size that the text should be. So 1.00 M, which M is EM, is 100% of what the original text size should be. So if I refresh, that's back to the original font size. Okay, so if I want to make the font size 1.5 times its size, I will make it 150%, so 1.5 M, and now I can change the font size based on that. So I can make it 3.5 times the original size and make it really big. So the M is the one that I want to use because the M will allow me to resize it comparable to the size that it is right now. But if somebody decides to zoom in or out, or if they change their font size to medium, large, larger, some people need to change the font size so they can see it better. then what it will do is whatever font size it should have been at their current size, it will make it a proportion of that size. So if they have their font size set to larger and I used pixels, it may actually cause their font to be too small to read, even if they zoom in. But if I use M's, M will allow it to automatically resize it based on what they actually have their browser set to. Sometimes I want to play with text that's displayed on the page and I want to stylize it a little bit. We're not supposed to use all caps because it's screaming, but I can cause text to be all uppercase, all lowercase, or I can also cause each word to be capitalized. And the way that I'm going to do that is I'm going to use the text transform, and I'm going to start with capitalize. And if you notice, Notepad++ already understands what I'm going to type. So I'm going to capitalize, and watch what happens to all the letters every when I refresh. It takes the first letter of each word and capitalizes it. Okay, I also have the ability to make everything uppercase. Now it makes everything all caps, which is screaming. We're not supposed to do this, but sometimes we need things to be uppercase. And then we also can do lowercase. All right, now I have not manipulated what the text really is. I'm just simply telling the browser to display it this way. So I wouldn't really want to do this to try to cause the user to validate that their name is all uppercase or lowercase or anything like that. It's just simply what's being displayed on the page. Okay, so I want to get rid of this. Put it back to the way that it was. All right, some other things that I can play with are changing the height of the lines of text, so I can actually make things double spaced. And I can do things like my first line indent, just like you do in paragraphs in Word. So to make this double spaced, I am going to play with what is called line height. And once again, this is in percentage. So if I make it double spaced, I'd want it to be 2.0. And what this will do is it will double space my lines. So now I have 2 spaces in between. I can also play with things like I want my text to all be aligned to the left or aligned to the right. So I'm going to play with text align. And I have left, which is the standard, but I could also do right. This will cause all my text to be aligned to the right side of the page. I can center it. That will center all of my text. And then lastly, I can justify it. And justify is like what you see in textbooks where the text will stretch all the way from the left all the way to the right. And so if I justify this, now you'll see that these 2 lines stretch all the way to the edge. It will automatically do that for me. So instead of having this where you see the lines at the end, you actually see everything straight down the side. Okay, the last thing that I want to play with here is going to be my text indent. Okay, and my text indent is going to be in forms of M's. So I want to indent it so many M's, meaning indent the first line 3 times more than normal. So if I refresh this, now I get a nice little indent. So this is starting to look more like what we're used to seeing for paragraphs instead of our business type format. Because this is in my external style sheet, and because I have put all of these as that strong text class, when I refresh these other documents, they will also get that same style. What's really nice about this is that if I decide I don't like this, I change it in one location in style.css, save it here, and it will affect all of the documents that are linked back to this one. So just as a real quick refresher, I have an external style sheet, which is a separate file, gets applied first. Then I have my embedded style sheet, which is the style sheet that's in the head, gets applied second. And then I can have a style listed at each individual element, which is called an inline style, and this one gets applied last. This one will override both the embedded and the external style sheet. The embedded style sheet will override the external style sheet. So style sheet, external gets applied first, embedded second, and then inline third. In this lesson, you learned about the three types of CSS styles: the inline styles, embedded style sheets, and external style sheets. You learned about the inheritance of all of those in the order that they get applied. And you also learned how to format text using CSS.